I'm going to play the video of you demonstrating the jelly printing. But
Oh,
you're going to have to narrate through it because there's no
oh God.
sound to it.
Right,
Okay.
Suzanne, are you ready for a laugh? Are you ready for a big laugh?
Yes. Oh, it is
This is
interesting.
us. This is us in Tuscany. We were in Tuscany, and I took my jelly plate with me, and the tutor said, "Oh, perhaps you'd like to show us how to use the jelly plate." Well, I'm really not an expert, and one of the other people on the course knows far more about it than me. So it was a sort of a bit of a backwards and forwards between the two of us. Yeah.
So, but
Cool.
you'll hear the original audio in the recorded, our recorded session. I'll put the original. I may put them both in because we'll have information for whatever, Jill. But it's kind of fun to hear the conversation and the oohs and ahs at the end of it. That's my favorite, when you put the last print and everybody just goes, oh. So
Can I just ask, Suzanne, have you done jelly plate printing?
Yes, I have a jelly plate. In Carla Zonheim's classes, I used it a bit, yes, but I haven't used it in a long time.
Okay, so you're not
I
a
know what it
complete
is.
expert, but you know what it is.
Yes, I
So
know
you're
what
about
it
the
is.
same about the same level as me, actually. You
Oh,
know, you
no,
know what
you
it
are
is.
far better than I am.
You know what it is, but not expert. Okay.
I think that it will probably inspire you. I know that I've already taken my jelly plate out, put out, so that I play with it as soon as I have a chance to play in the studio again, which I'm hoping will be later this afternoon. Okay, so I will now share the screen, hopefully smoothly. Are you seeing the jelly printing with Jill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It's
so
only
we're
a
in
few minutes.
We're in the studio at the Verrocchio Art Center, Centro. Yeah.
Cool. It looks good.
Oh, it was great. Here we go.
Oh, it was fantastic center. Okay, so I have a tiny little 6-inch jelly plate. That's our tutor right next to me with the fair hair. That's our tutor, Liz Huff. And some of the people hadn't ever seen a jelly plate, so I was showing them, the make and what it looks like. And that's just acrylic paint in that palette just there. And the lady in the grey apron does quite a lot of jelly printing. So she was able to be ever so helpful. And that's me in my €10 dress from the market. Okay, so yeah, we were trying the magazine, where you put down paint and you lay a magazine on top and some of the print comes off and then you put more paint on, and I put quite a lot of black on, and I can remember saying, I think we're just going to get a black print, but that took off most of the ink, and so we tried again and it was quite a good result. So that's a page that you see above my hands. That's a page from a magazine.
That's what I want to play with and experiment. That really, I mean, this next one came out really nicely.
Yeah, and where the jelly plate had built up quite a lot of layers of color, this print came out quite well with different colors. Actually, I've got it with me. So the lines from the magazine page came onto the print.
And the textures on it were just great.
Oh, yes, fantastic, yes.
Yeah,
So there's lots of possibilities of things you can do with magazine pages.
Okay, and then now this one.
Okay, so starting on the left-hand side, I've made 4 little books, and they are little. I don't know whether you can see me. They are literally or what, 2-inch square.
Oh, yes.
And the first one on the left-hand side, they were plants. This is probably the one you've seen. These were plants
Yes, I
gathered
have
from my
seen that one.
garden.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And they were printed onto wet strength tissue paper, so that when
Uh-huh.
you stick them down with PVA onto this is just a page from a sketchbook folded into a zigzag book.
Mhm.
Once they're stuck down, the tissue paper sort of vanishes and you're just left with the acrylic ink print.
Mhm.
So the first one was my garden. The next one was things that I collected when walking down to the beach where I am at the moment on the Gower Peninsula in South Wales.
Mhm.
So there were things like feathers and plants, and there was a bit of sheep's wool and things. The third one along is printed from things I picked up in Skiathos, mainly feathers, and from memories of what the sea was like. And that, although the things were gathered in Skiathos, it was actually printed back in Wales. And the last one on the right-hand side were prints from plants that I picked in the Verrocchio Art Centre terrace garden. And I printed with the Gelli plate while I was there, but I actually made the book when I came back. So my motivation here is to make a very small record of different places I've been this summer. So April,
Oh,
May,
yes.
June,
Yeah.
and July.
Yeah, that's very
And
nice.
Chris
Yes.
has made a little video of each of those, if you want to see it.
Okay, so this is, I believe, this is all of the 4 videos strung together.
Okay. You can see how tiny it is.
Oh, yes, yes.
And that all of the paper is covered with prints, even where it looks as though it's just plain paper, it is actually the tissue. I don't know why I chose those colors, because they're not really representative of my garden. I think I chose them because I like them, but I wish
Oh,
now
yes.
I'd chosen appropriate colors for those prints, because I've ended up with 3 blue books.
Had you just purchased some new ink that you were trying out?
That's the next one.
Okay.
This is acrylic. This is acrylic paint.
Oh, lovely colors. I like the
Yeah.
color. I
Yeah,
like all
I
your
do.
colors. Yes.
Yeah. And there's little strips put in, and I paint lines sometimes, or little bits.
But you made the book first and then you print it.
I printed onto the tissue paper,
Oh,
and,
yes. And oh, yes, I
and
forgot.
then I
Yes.
stuck the tissue.
Yeah, it's all on
Excuse
tissue
me.
paper.
Yeah, and then I stuck the tissue onto the book.
Oh, yes. So cool.
And the next one was made in Gower. And the prints, which were things I picked up, that's the end of the garden one, which was April. Now this one is printing inks, which were oil-based, and so they were much slower to dry, but much more subtle color,
Yes.
and different to use, actually. And there's more art, there's more painting in this one. But these are all things that were gathered on a walk down to the beach.
Oh, beautiful. It's very beautiful. Oh, right.
You can see little bits where I've painted lines. Can you see bits that have been added?
Oh, yes, I can see. Yes.
And making one print bleed
Oh,
into another by painting with just watercolor paints. That's a feather. We
Oh,
have some
it's so
lovely feathers
beautiful.
here.
Oh, my.
But the way that the tissue just disappears is so wonderful, because you
can see
see
I've
just the
painted.
print.
Yeah. They're very small, but they do actually take a long, long time because it's
Yeah.
quite a long process. You do the collecting and then you do the printing, and then
Uh-huh.
you have to wait ages for these to dry.
Yeah.
And it takes quite a long time to decide what you're going to put in. Now, this was after
Mhm.
Skiathos when we were swimming in the very, very,
Oh,
very blue sea. So I think it's just feathers that were printed. So a lot
oh
of it
yes. Lovely
is paint
blues.
and
Uh-huh.
ink with a dip brush.
Oh,
So it's a memory
oh,
really of swimming
yeah.
through the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful blue waters.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see the
Oh,
scribble underneath the
yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. So beautiful.
I love that part.
Oh, yes. It's amazing. Yes. I
and,
really
and you
like
see
it.
it shines a bit. I
Oh,
actually did
beautiful. Wow.
some
The
luminous
lovely
thing.
colors.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a
Wow.
feather again.
Oh. Ah,
And I
That
scribbled
you
it.
really
added a lot of
fantastic.
lines too on the
Yeah.
last one. Please go back to the last one because the one, well, that I love too, but two back.
Ah, yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. And you added the lines with ink.
Yes, ink and some
Uh-huh.
watercolor. And I used some watercolor that has mica in it.
Ah, yes, I
It was
see.
a
Yes.
little bit
Mhm.
shiny.
Shiny,
And
yes.
then
Mhm.
this one is from plants that I picked in the garden on the terrace in the art centre. So
Uh-huh.
it's a lot
Uh-huh.
more colour because there were a lot of
Yeah.
red and orange flowers as well as the
Mm-hmm.
green.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a different colourway. But I actually printed these while I was there.
Ah, yes.
And then I made the book when I got home.
It's interesting to me that this has a completely different character from the other.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. I like that page a lot. Wow.
Thank you. It's sort of like doing a jigsaw puzzle, you know, piecing the
Yeah,
different
yeah,
bits
yeah, yeah.
together
Mhm.
to produce the atmosphere that you want.
Uh-huh.
Nasturtiums, lots of nasturtiums. And just the textures are so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Very wabby-sabby, you know?
Mhm. Yes, I
Perfection
like
of
that too.
imperfection.
Yes.
Mm.
Wow, that's another lovely page.
So there's 4 of them in total.
And you still have 2 months of summer.
Well, yeah, and I will continue to do them actually because they are.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a fantastic idea to start this series.
Yeah, it was a mistake really because I did
Ah,
these prints and I thought, what can I do with them? And I do
uh-huh.
enjoy working in a small scale.
Mhm, mhm.
And the prints, it's ready-made art really, but there's all sorts of when you actually make the books up, there's all sorts of decisions you make when you pick the different
Oh,
prints,
yes, of
turn them
course. Yes.
around and put them next to one another and cut them up and add
Mhm,
paint to them and add ink to them. So
mhm,
know,
mhm,
it's an enjoyable process that I
mhm.
like, and they don't take up too much room. and
Yeah.
and then what I also did, I've got a sketchbook here, and I might have shown you this before, but
Uh-huh.
I've filled this with lots of the
Oh,
prints that were left, you know,
yes.
and
Oh, yes.
and as I went further on, I sort of got more adventurous, and they
Oh,
became
beautiful.
more
Yes.
pictures.
Uh-huh.
Um, you
Oh,
might
it's
remember that
wonderful.
from the
Wow.
little
Great
ZigZag book.
colors. And Jill, did you use PVA for all of this, or did you use?
yeah,
glue
this
stick
is
too?
all PVA, and this has some work, some drawing underneath and on top.
It's a bit like Eva Kalin, that page.
Yes, it's definitely
Oh.
inspired by Eva Kelly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
yeah.
like it when different things come together, you know?
Mhm. Oh, yes. Oh, that's a lovely page, yes.
These are
And this
gorgeous.
is still the tissue paper that you glue on the pages.
Yes, yes. It's
The prints
tissue.
from the tissue paper.
Yeah, I print onto
Ah.
the tissue paper, and then I
Yeah,
tear
yeah,
and
yeah,
cut
yeah.
the tissue paper
Uh-huh.
and put it on the surface.
Oh. Uh-huh.
This one was inspired again by the water in the Aegean. And then since I've been home, this one is inspired by the view from the terrace in Verrocchio.
Oh, yes.
So that's as far as I've got. So I've sort of got a
Exactly.
sketchbook using up these prints as well.
But then you
So
use a larger jelly plate. You have several jelly plates, or
I have 2 jelly plates,
it's
but
not done with a small one.
all of these prints that I've shown you tonight, are all done on the 6-inch, on the small
Oh,
jelly
yes.
plate.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, even the ones for your tiny books were the 6.
Yeah, the ones for the tiny books,
Yeah.
all from the 6-inch, because you cut them up and tear them up
Wow.
and things. That's
Yeah,
the one from that
yeah.
magazine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, that's very beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So there we go.
It just
But
stimulates. Go ahead.
how did you do that with the magazine? You put some color on the
Okay.
jelly plate, and then
Yes.
you put the new magazine page. No, explain that to me,
Yes,
please.
just exactly what you said. You put
Uh-huh.
a thin layer of ink or acrylic paint onto the jelly plate, and then you put the magazine page face down and pull it up, and then you let that surface dry. Okay, that must be dry. And then you put another layer of the acrylic paint in a contrasting color and put a piece of paper on top, and you should let that dry for a little while, for a minute or two, and then you pull it up and you get some of the print. But you have to have the right sort of magazine, and you can do it from your own drawings, but you have to have a laser copy of your
It's not
drawing
from a
paper.
glossy magazine, no? It's not
Well,
from
these
glossy
were
paper.
glossy magazines, and that's why we didn't know if it would work. So just experiment. But if you want to do it from your own work, you need to have it copied. If you haven't got a laser printer, I've got an inkjet printer.
Yeah.
But very often
So
in a
do I.
stationery shop or something, you know, in town,
You
you
can
can
make
maybe
that
get a
these
laser
prints.
copy.
I wonder
and
what
then
would
it works.
happen if you did try doing it with an inkjet. I mean, it may
Well,
not work
we need to
well, but
try it, don't we?
it
Yeah.
might do something interesting.
Yeah. And I also on Instagram saw the other day that a man that did charcoal drawings, it was actually a portrait, but it wouldn't matter. Charcoal drawings, and he put that down onto the painted jelly plate and let the paint dry, put the charcoal down, face down, rub it and take the paper off, and it leaves a charcoal imprint, and then you can print that.
Wow.
Oh,
I
yes.
think I might try that.
Hang on, over the charcoal, you blow off any excess charcoal and you cover it. So if it's black charcoal, obviously, put white acrylic on top, and then print that, and you get your portrait or your
What
charcoal
color did
drawing.
he put down first before he put the charcoal portrait down?
I don't know. Light, I think. Light, and then put the dark charcoal. I haven't done it, so I'd have to do it to
No.
really find out. But then white on
fun.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of things to do with jelly plates.
Yeah.
Yes.
Suzanne, what
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
prints did you do when you were doing the jelly printing?
Um, mm, just some papers to use for collage, I think, yes. It's a long time ago. I haven't used my jelly plate for many years now. Yes, we made papers for collage, yes. Yeah.
You get beautiful papers. You get lovely textures and colors. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really nice.
What
Really good.
size jelly plate were you using? The big one or the little one?
No, not a square one, but a rectangular one.
Yeah,
Yes.
10 by
I
8.
don't know the dimension. Yeah.
Um,
Not very large.
hmm.
I
that's
I
the
got
size
a
I think.
little tiny one too that
Ah, yes.
to make like greeting cards with to send to people. I haven't used it very much. I think I just played with it once, but now I'm all excited to go back
Yes.
and try things with that because it's
Uh-huh.
just the right size that you could
Ah, yes.
take the card and just print right onto it. But I never got the kinds of beautiful results that Jill has gotten from her jelly prints. I don't know. I think you have the real touch for that.
I
And
think
the
it's a fun
colors.
thing. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's a fun thing.
Certainly, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So do you have any other questions about jelly printing or thoughts you might have, Jill, on the things that you can use or not use? I mean, you've used feathers and plants and you've
Mm.
used fabrics too, haven't you? Different textured fabrics or lace?
No, I don't think so, but I am watching on Instagram, and I have seen somebody was putting quite three-dimensional botanic objects down onto paper and then putting the jelly plate on top,
Oh,
doing it the other way around, because as long as the three-dimensional object isn't sharp, you can sort of like wiggle the jelly plate around, and you then, when you lift it up, you get an interesting effect on the plate. Then you let that dry and ink it up, print that. So I'm going to try that.
wow.
And I've also invested in a flower press, because although all of the ones I've done this summer, I've just picked things and printed more or less straight away with them. I thought I'd like to try and find if I pressed flowers or plants to see what sort of print I'd get from those. So I've only ever pressed things before under piles of books, and it's not a scientific way of doing things. So I've bought this really lovely flower press, thick, bolts to tighten it. It's quite large.
Yeah.
And so I yesterday I went out into the garden and picked some plants, and I put them in layers and layers and layers in this flower press. So I'm going to leave them there for a week or so and see what happens if you press with very, very flat botanicals as well. I'm quite interested to just stick with botanicals.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think you will have lovely results. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Well, it'll be interesting. Yeah.
We are looking forward to your results.
Well, who
Yeah.
knows? Who
And
knows?
maybe some very flat seaweed from Gower.
Maybe.
There is some flat seaweed. A lot of them are pods and not quite so flat, but I think that there is flat seaweed there too.
Yes. 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 Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know if you showed you can't show it now because it's at your house, but the red seaweed
Oh,
that was beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
you can't really tell if it's real or painted or printed. It's just it's bright red, the seaweed. And where was it?
It was from Falmouth Harbour.
Yeah.
I bought a framed piece of pressed seaweed.
Ah, yes.
earlier in the year when I was in St Ives. It's not from St Ives in Cornwall, it's from Falmouth in Cornwall, which is a very, very deep harbour. And
Mhm,
apparently the seaweed they get there is very red, because you can,
mhm,
lots of seaweeds are red. But
mhm,
this is, it just looks like the most beautiful botanic painting, but it
Yeah.
is
mhm.
actually pressed seaweed.
Oh, yes.
And it's
Cool.
beautiful. I'll show you. I'll be home
Yeah.
next week, so I'll show you then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Mm.
Okay, well, that's it for the jelly printing. And
Mhm,
I could talk about motherships, which was kind of a concept that led to found compositions that we did in Tuscany. But I also want to say that next week, unless someone else has an idea for a book or discussion, I will talk about, we did talk about Kurt Jackson before. Kurt Jackson, the
I
abstract
don't know.
landscape.
Kurt
Back
Jackson.
in May, Jill had found a beautiful book on Kurt Jackson's
Ah,
work, his landscapes. And
mhm,
so I got this while I was over there because I wanted to see his sketchbooks. You know, he
mhm,
clearly
mhm.
painted outdoors. And it's a fabulous book that I've hardly had time to look at. But I thought I might do a slideshow and a discussion on
Mhm.
Kurt Jackson.
Yeah,
And
that would be very nice.
I don't know if you remember very much about him, Jill.
No, only that he's still alive and he lives and works in Cornwall.
Yeah.
And he's an ecologist, isn't he? I think
Yes.
he was the one that was impressed by by a fellow ecologist that said to him, just take a square meter of ground and just look at it
Yes.
and see what is there. And the more you look, the more you see. And I
Mhm,
think, he was very impressed by that. And in the book that I bought in Cornwall that we looked at in May, I seem to remember there were chapters on, for instance, apples. And I loved the way he'd curated the book. So there were his paintings of orchards, but there were also paintings of apples and paintings of
mhm, mhm.
blossom, in lots of different styles. Quite a loose sort of style, very textural work, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But interesting
Mhm.
artist. Yeah,
And
quite a successful artist, I think.
the slideshow that I put together for that, I'll play again next Monday, so that we can refresh. And I don't think Carol saw it. But it will be fun to look at those again and then to look at his sketches. And some of them are beautifully abstract and some of them are more detailed. I just really like the breadth of his work.
Yeah.
And this, I can't wait to spend
Mhm.
more time with it, because especially after the workshop that we did in Tuscany, Liz's approach was just so wonderful, and she just gave us little bits at a time, and it enabled me to see how I could work both looking at real things, but also work intuitively and expressively, which for me has been a challenge. I'm either working representationally or I'm working completely abstractly, but they were very,
Combining.
combining them and getting my feelings or my thoughts or the story, whatever it was tied together was really challenging. And I can't really put my finger on any one thing she said or anything, one exercise that we did, but without realizing, and I think it happened for most of us in the workshop, that our work really held together. I mean, we weren't really working on finished things, but somehow at the end, it really was a magnificent showing of work, and each person's area presented itself very well as an experience. Don't you think, Jill? I mean,
Yeah. It was, there were 7 people and 7 people produced completely different things. But as you say, there seemed to be a thread running through, even though the whole sort of nearly 2 weeks was lots of different sorts of exercises and processes and ways of working. And we worked on landscape and still life and interiors.
Yeah,
But for all of us, I think there was a thread that ran through,
right.
holding everything together. Yeah, yeah.
And
Very
that
cool.
was wonderful to see, not just in my work, which that was one of my goals, but to see it in other people's work too, that maybe they were working on a still life, but something from what they did with their landscape came into it. And you could see, whether it be the Tuscan colors or the lines. I mean, it was, and the still life, it's really, I'm still trying to process the whole thing, because if anybody said that you could tie together landscape, still life, and interiors and make a piece that says something of its own without looking like it's 3 different paintings, I would have wondered how in the world is that possible, but that's what happened. So exciting.
Yeah.
All right, so you have a choice. We can either, I kind of doubt that Carol is going to join us at this point. I'm afraid probably, I can't imagine that she would be back from the vet yet. Instead of shifting to the do you want to see the found compositions from my mothership, or do you want to save that for another time? It's up to you. I'm happy.
Yes.
Yes, you want to see that? Okay. I'll explain what the mothership is to start with.
Yes, what that is.
All right, I think that I'll pull up the slideshow. Let me check first. Okay. So I'll share the screen again. All right. So this was, you can ignore the date for this. One of the pieces I was working on, okay. It started off, we had collage papers. So this was based on some charcoal drawings, just very simple charcoal drawings that were done in the landscape. And then the project was to take it to a different place using just collage papers and basic shapes. So I started with that, and you can see there's a blue sky in it. Very soon it lost the blue sky. These were just being placed on top and not glued down till we played around. And then I think at this point I probably glued it. And then so I'm going to flip through these. This is how the piece developed. It started getting pretty chaotic. And then the blue came back in. And then it was just really chaotic. So I tried to simplify it with more blue. I was having a great time doing it, but okay. So that's the way that it ended up. And what I really liked was this black splot of acrylic or ink at the end. So I just felt like, okay, that's done. And Liz had said, okay, well, this would make a great mothership. And I just love that term, because she said you could make a lot of babies from this, meaning within it, there are a lot of found compositions.
That's what the mothership.
Yeah, I really love the whole idea of the found compositions within other paintings. Not just when a painting doesn't work, just other paintings too, but to see these further ideas. So I got a lot of babies out of this mothership, and I'll just go through them. And I know that I'm going to be working from some of these for sure. I mean, that is so different from that. No, but these are all from the same finished piece.
And they're just photos that you've taken where you've put a frame around. Yeah.
Yes, like the L's, you know,
Yeah.
how you,
Uh-huh.
This
Yeah.
is still the original mothership.
yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's just a very slight change, but it can make a
Yeah.
whole different piece. And
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yes.
fabulous to, and some of them, I didn't straighten these, but to see how a little bit of a difference can either make or break a piece
Yeah.
like this, you know, turning it, here's, these two are basically the same,
Yeah.
but they're very different. And the proportion, whether it's long and skinny or wider.
Mhm, mhm.
And this is just
It's the
this
same
part
one
zoomed
too.
in on. But when you separate it out and blow it up, you could imagine what this tiny little piece could be 8 feet by 8 feet. I mean,
Mhm.
I'd love to do something with this, the square one.
Mhm.
And these, I think, would be fun. You know, and you can turn it and it doesn't matter because it's the mothership. That one I like a lot too.
Mhm.
There are a lot of these, but I just kept I kept seeing them as I was playing with the L's and seeing them as big paintings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one I kind of don't like it, but I like it. And then I don't
Uh-huh.
like it, and then I like it. I wasn't even going to include it in the slideshow. I thought, well, there's something about it.
It's very special. Yes. The
Yeah.
red color there, the milky one.
Yes. And I think it came from, well, I just brushed it over, but the tissue paper underneath was really lumpy and bumpy.
Uh-huh.
So, so when I scraped it across, it made those interesting patterns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just find it remarkable that you can get so many completely different paintings out of the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's probably because the painting itself didn't work. But there were options. Okay, so those were the motherships. And then this is another collage that was like 5 inches by 5 inches. And here, all I did was change the color of the, oops. I thought that I had them together. I guess I didn't. Let me see if I can copy this. Because I also thought it was interesting to see the two together, and you just change the color of one.
One element. Yeah.
And it's a very different piece.
Mm-hmm.
And this, one, two, this was before I put the black on, then I put the charcoal on. And then I did some other things, I'm not sure, on top of the charcoal. And then I painted over in collage. But that too, the process itself and what went on in my head and the way I felt about it, it was so much fun and really fascinating. And I don't really understand it at all, but I'm going to definitely do more of it. And this was a selection of experiments. And this one on the left I really love that this is the blue lady that was in the Roman bath that I swam in every morning. And this came from the first collage I made that was just a disaster, you know. I was going to throw it out and I thought, well, maybe later in the week I'll use it. Turned out that I made this one out of it. And that was one of those cases where it had some landscape in it. It had some other things. And then this blue lady, which is a sculpture of Nigel's. The whole art center was created by a sculptor named Nigel Holman. I'm never remembering his last name. It starts with an H though. And she just sort of appeared. So these were the kinds of simple sketches we were making at different times. That's Nigel's studio, his sculpting studio. He no longer is alive, but the studio was still there, and it was very inspiring to me. So then it goes on and on and on and on. But that's as far as I got when I was putting that together for the last week's, just in case we didn't have things enough to talk about, but we had plenty to talk about, so I didn't have to get to that.
Yeah.
So that's what I have for today. Any other, what have you done any sketching? I'm not trying to hold you accountable, Suzanne. I'm just asking.
No. Yes, I do a little bit every day, sometimes only scribbling, because I'm very busy with family, with the grandkids and everybody, and sister-in-law coming and so on. But I do a little bit every day. Sometimes it's only scribbling, and I have my 2 books where I started also the automatic drawings. There
Yes,
was a lady who posted the fish there.
yes,
It was very nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I just do some abstract scribbling, and well, the results, they are not fantastic, but I just want to see where it leads me. Yes.
Well, that's what our whole workshop in Tuscany was about. It wasn't about
Yeah.
finishing
Yeah.
things. I think that's wonderful.
Making pretty things. Yes.
Scribbling
Yeah,
every
yeah.
day, to scribble every day is a wonderful thing.
Mhm.
And it will lead.
Mhm.
It will lead somewhere. Doesn't really matter where it leads to. But it feels good when
Yes.
you do that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's good hand training too. It's
Yes.
good for the hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So and are you doing those in the sketchbooks that you made? Because you made some wonderful sketchbooks that you shared with us. Didn't you make some?
Yes, I made some of Gilles' sketchbooks. I am sorting out stuff, and I had some pages, some large pages. They were not so beautiful. They had some some not so lovely spots, and I just made sketchbooks from them, and I just use them up because I need to use up as much as possible. Otherwise, my children will throw everything away later.
Right. Right. I think that we're
Yes.
all in that same position. Might as well
Yeah.
fill them up and use them. And automatic drawing is a great way to do that. And to have them all, because it's nice to be able to go back. And even though you think you're just scribbling and you're not doing anything, I know when I look back at the automatic drawings I've been doing, I'm really surprised. You know, there's something
Yes.
being said there. I'm not saying it's great artwork, but it's about communication, and I'm seeing something being communicated.
Yeah.
I know with Jill's then, and
Mhm.
yours have gone through different stages too, but they're all definitely saying something. And sometimes it's a lot more than these really careful, beautifully drawn pieces of artwork we create that
Mhm,
are fine technically, but they don't say a whole lot.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I think the
Yes.
scribbling is well
Yes.
worth it.
Yes, in France, I have a studio for my sewing. I have all my fabrics there, and I sorted out quite a pile of old bed sheets and quite a lot of stuff. And I am looking through old unfinished quilts, and I have a few Amish quilts, smaller ones. I once fell in love with the Amish colors, and I made a few, but I never got them quilted. But I had to find out that I am no longer able to do this hand stitching. I had surgery, and when I was younger, I made all the bed quilts. I quilted everything by hand, and I loved so much doing this. So I have a quilting stitch on my sewing machine,
Oh,
and I made it with that one. But it's not the same one. Yes, it's not the same thing. And there are just a few smaller motifs. I would like to quilt them by hand, but it's really a challenge for me. And I am just still reading Rick Rubin's book, and in one chapter he says, yes, sometimes we are no longer the same persons, and if we wait too long to finish something, it it's almost no good to do it.
yeah. It's like somebody else finishes it. You know,
Yeah.
it's not the
Yes.
same
You are
experience.
no longer the same person, and okay, I see.
Yeah. So you can also turn it into something else.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you have a studio in France? Did you
Yeah.
say? Okay, so where your sewing things are.
Yeah. Yeah. I have an old sewing machine here for the mending, and so, but my main sewing machine is in France, because there I have a large room, and I much more here, and fabrics there. Yes. But I had time to do much work in France. There's so much to do outside, and then families coming. We go in August, we may go a week or two, and we'll see.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to paint
right.
other stuff, but we'll see.
Well, I
Yes,
think you
when
get
I
a
was
lot
younger,
done.
I was, pardon?
I think that you're getting a lot done. You know,
It
overall in your
feels it.
life, you get an awful lot done.
Yeah. But I want to have fewer things and to have more time to focus on some things. Yes. Okay. Only a sketchbook and a pen and a pencil and few colors.
Yeah, that's all you
Oh,
need.
taking out the jelly plate is already too much for me now.
That's fine. At some point, you know, if
Yeah.
I think just a sketchbook and a couple of pens is
Yeah.
great. I
I
mean,
try to
a glue
stick with
stick
it.
and some paper is nice too. I mean, I love
Yeah.
having a glue stick and just if you're somewhere,
Mhm.
you can just rip up a placemat or something and
Oh,
glue it
that
in.
I do too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Jill, you and Suzanne, you take the time to meet with me every Monday. It's great. Was this time better for you?
It's okay. Yes.
Yeah. Jill, did you mute yourself?
Oh, yes.
Yes, because
Oh,
Hockney was barking. Yes, it's
oh,
good for me. Yes.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Because it's fine for me too. I needed to just set an alarm so that I remembered. But yeah, so we'll continue with it being at this time until something changes
Mhm.
and,
Yeah. Okay.
we'll just let each other know. Okay,
Mhm.
is it all right if we talk about the sketchbook?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
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 Very okay. Yes. Mhm.
And I'll, as I said, I have the other slides still from when we talked about it in May. And I think that we'll show those two again
Okay.
as a refresher, and I'll find out a little bit more about them. I haven't really read anything in this yet. I've only been looking at the pictures, but I'll do a little bit of research for next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, have a wonderful week. Continue
Thank you.
scribbling, Suzanne.
Yes. Yes. I do my
And
best.
enjoy Gower, Jill.
Yeah, well, I'm only here. I'm here tomorrow. I've got to go back on Wednesday because I'm seeing friends on Thursday. So yeah.
Okay, is it supposed to be good weather tomorrow, I hope?
Yes, it'll be better. It's
Good.
less rainy than it was earlier.
Oh, good.
So yeah, and then the caravan is going to be pretty much used by family
Great.
the rest of the summer. So then I'll come back in September.
Okay, good. All right, I'll see you all next week. Aha. Gorgeous.
Oh my God. Nice. Oh my gosh.